Y'all, we are back with a brand new season of Survivor already. I cannot believe it. Season 48 is finally here, which is crazy because it feels like season 47 just ended, but here we are once again. Of course, with this season brings us a brand new cast of people to either root for or against, depending on your preference. And I'm also sure that we're going to be seeing new twists and advantages and all that good stuff along the way too. So far, this season hasn't been quite as dramatic as the premiere of season 47, but hey, there is still plenty of time for us to get there, so let's keep our hopes up. Of course, there's going to be a lot for us to talk about during this premiere, but first, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below so that you can stay tuned as we continue with this season. Now, let's get started. So we're going to kick off this episode with a cute little video of everybody getting their cast announcement to be on the show. I don't think they've ever done this before, but overall I just thought it was a cute way to introduce people and let us really see them before they have their guards up and their game faces on that beach. After everybody arrives and they have their usual mat chat with Jeff, it's time for the usual reward challenge just for basic supplies and whatnot. Now, I don't mind them having these reward challenges at the very beginning right off the bat. You know, I kind of like how the players have to hit the ground running and really fight for it from the very get-go. But my one critique is that they always have them just covered in mud or blood or some other stuff all over their faces and stuff in the very first episode, and it always makes it so hard to recognize who is who because we don't know everybody yet. Either way, the Purple Loggy tribe ends up pulling out the first win of the season here, and that of course leads everybody else to fend for themselves and fight for supplies later. So right now the Purple tribe of course is in heaven since they won their first challenge, and it looks like they are doing great out there. I can't even lie. This team is super stacked. Most of the people are super athletic. The fire has started. The shelter's almost done. I mean, life looks good out there. I can't even lie. Now, I do want to give a special shout out to Thomas here in this episode because for one, he recognizes that a bunch of people on his tribe are super duper strong and athletic, and he knows that he's not one of those people. So he's a little bit afraid of being the weakest link. So I do really like when people are able to recognize their weaknesses out there in the game. Sometimes people have a little bit too big of egos to be able to admit stuff like that. And I think the fact that Thomas is able to recognize that is one of the reasons why he's able to acclimate himself so well out there. He is able to bro up with all the guys and form a tight alliance there. And later on, he forms something with Eva as well. Plus later on, we see him and Bianca talking and starting to form something too. So overall, Thomas is just looking the most well insulated on his tribe. Eva seems to be in a really good spot out there too. We see her growing really close to Joe. So close that he's actually the only person that she is willing to open up to about her autism right now. We get this really sincere and almost emotional moment of Joe and Eva talking, where Eva is telling her about her struggles and how that might hurt her in the game. And in response, Joe is really supportive of this and is vowing to help her and take care of her in whatever way she needs to. I think they were both being very real and genuine here. Nothing phony about this conversation at all. And just by the way it was edited, if I had to make a prediction, I would bet that these two are gonna be in the game for a while now. I could definitely see them making the merge at least. Really, on this tribe, Star seems to be the only one who's really out of the loop right now, and I really hate that for her. I don't think we see her aligning with anybody on her tribe at all during this episode, and she even gets some of the sus put on her when she's going out alone and doing all this idol hunting. So yeah, definitely not the best look for her going forward. Meanwhile, out on the Orange Civa tribe, David is really the main one who's standing out to me right now, mainly because he's out there doing all this cocky stuff. He's doing that very bro thing of bragging about how many pull-ups he can do, trying to show off how strong he is. He's also bragging about being able to make fire with no flint. Don't get me wrong, strength and general outdoorsy skills are definitely great to have on this show, but when you look the way that he looks, saying stuff like that could just make you look like a threat way easier.
They might see me as a hero, they might see me as a villain. Truth be told, sometimes I'm both. Hopefully my charm has won people over enough that they can kind of look past the muscles and see me more than a physical challenge threat, and actually as a valuable ally.
Cheers!
Meanwhile, over on the green Vula tribe, Say, the gamebot that she is coming in hot, immediately knowing that she wants to lock in a 4-person alliance and have that majority. Say knows that this is a numbers game first and foremost, and she knows exactly what she needs to do, wasting no time. We see her first trying to lock in this all-girls alliance with the other ladies, but they just end up pretty much paying her dust. So then she moves on to the fellas. It seemed like the guys were just more willing and open to play the game from the get-go than the other ladies were. But later on in the episode, we do hear a confessional of Mary talking about how she never even liked or trusted Sai in the first place, so maybe that's kind of why. Later on, we see Kyle and Kevin go out on their mission to try to win supplies for their tribe, and I just thought it was kind of cute and cool overall to see them use different strategies of retrieving these keys. It seemed like these guys were more or less neck and neck most of the time, but at the very end, we see Kyle accidentally break his vase and therefore eliminating himself from the competition. He then goes on to help Kevin with his vase, which was kind and nice and all that good stuff, but also it could be good social game later on down the line, especially if they all end up making the merge or if there's a tribe swap or whatever. My one question about this whole thing is, could Kyle have just gone ahead and grabbed the key from the broken pot anyway? After all, in one of the previous notes, they said to get that key by any means necessary. So, if he was able to break that bamboo in order to retrieve the pot, why couldn't he just break the jug instead? Now, maybe there were already rules written in place for this to happen that we just didn't hear as an audience. But overall, I am personally very, very pro loophole when it comes to these games. So as long as the production team does not explicitly say you can't do something, I would at least try it. That's all I'm saying. So unfortunately, Kyle now has to return back to his tribe empty-handed, but that's not going to stop him from trying to still build bonds out there. He is able to bond with Kamilla over their shared Guyanese heritage, which is actually going to end up being very, very important for him because as we see later, Charity is going to try to throw him under the bus a little bit, but Kamilla has his back. She even goes as far as to kind of sort of flip the tribe onto Charity, so now Charity is actually kind of looking like she's in the worst spot in the game. Meanwhile, on the Orange tribe, Mitch and David end up finding some clues about their tribe's idol out there just spread around the island, and instead of keeping it to themselves, they choose to go ahead and give up this information to everyone and let the entire tribe know. I thought this was complicated because on one hand, if it's just me out there alone and I find something, I would want to keep that to myself to the best of my ability, but then both finding it together creates this huge liability because you never know when or if that other person is going to just snitch and run off and tell anybody else. And if word gets out that you knew about an idol but you kept it to yourself, then that's just going to make you look shady and make people not trust you. It could just all end up bad. So even though it's probably not the most ideal scenario, I can't say I blame them here for just going ahead and letting the cat out the bag. After all, two can keep a secret if one of them is dead. Well, or voted out. Meanwhile, over on the Green tribe, things are gonna get even more chaotic for this group as Say finds her tribe's beware advantage. There is this code that she needs to crack in order to get the idol out, but she cannot figure it out on her own, so she decides to enlist the help of the guys in her alliance. Which, again, I'm gonna say good insight on her for knowing her strengths and knowing her weaknesses and not having such big of an ego that you think you can do everything by yourself. To me, it takes a lot of courage to be able to admit that you can't do something, especially on TV in front of potentially millions of people. And you know, reality stars in general are just not known for having small egos. No shade, but shade. So I'm just happy to see that with Say. Eventually, her group is able to help her put together the symbols with the letters, with the numbers and all that stuff, and she is able to crack the code, giving her the first idol of the season. So after everyone has had time to get acquainted, it is now time for the players to head off to the first immunity of the season. This one is a classic with a bunch of little string challenges leading up to a big ass puzzle at the end. What a surprise. Things get very neck and neck by the end of this thing, but ultimately the green team ends up losing here, sending them to tribal council for the first time. Back at camp, Stephanie is already feeling the heat and feeling the guilt because she was one of the people responsible for the puzzle. So she's definitely feeling in danger there. But to me, it looks like she's the only one not actively trying to form alliances out there, and that's just the biggest offense. Now, granted, she is able to build something with Mary, so that's at least something, but that's not going to be enough, girlie. You need 4. This is where this momentum to try to vote out Say is started, because Mary and Stephanie just don't really trust her enough, which, hey, I totally understand because she does seem like a very strong player, but like I said, she is a very strong player. So Say has already been out there building bonds and forming alliances with people, and that's going to be tougher to break. So going into this tribal, it's looking like it's going to be Say versus Stephanie, but we can already see where the numbers and where the power is at the time. This tribal council ends up getting very awkward with a lot of attention and little arguments here and there from both Say and Stephanie. Stephanie is just one of those big zodiac girlies, so she's out there trying to talk birthdays and stars and alignments, and Say's just trying to talk game, okay? But my biggest takeaway from this saga overall is, just by the way she was talking out there, Say did give me that she was much more of a stable, strong game player and overall threat than Stephanie would ever be.
I can appreciate you looking at the stars, but I can also appreciate while you're looking at the stars, I'm over here at the water well, working with somebody, creating a bond, and getting myself further in the game. If you always have your head in the clouds, when do you find time to be in reality is what I'm asking.
So I was starting to get a little bit nervous for Say, especially in this pre-merge, because I'm sitting here wondering if she is being a little bit too obvious about how good she really can be. We then get to the votes where we see Stephanie go up to play her shot in the dark here, but that ultimately fails. And in the end, she is eventually voted out here. Now, this wasn't the biggest surprise to me, especially given just how passively she was playing out there, but this is really gonna suck for Mary, who is now at the very bottom of that tribe. Overall, I would actually say that Cedrek may be in the best position on this tribe right now, because 1, his name hasn't come up yet, and 2, he really didn't have to betray anybody during this vote. Even though they came on top here, Kevin and Justin technically did betray Mary and Steph here. Over on the Purple Loggy tribe, I'm gonna say that Thomas and Eva look to be in the best spots by far. Both of them look to be well insulated with damn near everybody on their tribe right now. And on the Orange Civa tribe, to me, it's a little bit harder to see where everyone stands. But I'm going to say that Kamilla stood out to me the most, just by the way she was able to go on the offense against Charity and already preemptively start to set her up to be the first victim. So we'll see if she is able to pull that off if and when this tribe goes to Tribal Council. But of course, I want to know who is standing out to you so far. Do you have a favorite player or a favorite tribe that you're rooting for? If so, let me know in the comments. I know it's only been 1 episode so far, so we really haven't gotten to know people that much yet, but come on, how could you not love that purple tribe? They are super strong. For the most part, they all seem super together, and honestly, it's going to be hard for me to picture them losing anytime soon. But still, anything could really happen, so we shall see. Of course, I will be back here next week to recap the next episode with you all, but until then, bye.